I'm Fiona, the Clean Kitchen Coach, and this is my friend Catherine. We're gonna make from my book the black bean brownies.
I can't wait.
Last night I soaked the beans. I put the beans in the pot. I covered the pot with the water, put the baking soda in there, and then I just put that in the fridge. And then this morning I got up and I just put it on the stove because it was already in the pot that I was going to cook it in. Put it on the stove, and it did take a super long time, like an hour and a half, and it got them really soft. So if you watched my other videos, I talked about the aquafaba, the residual water from the boiling of the beans, and I talked about how we could use that as an egg replacement. So when we were baking, there's a couple key ingredients that we always use. We always start with a fat and a sugar, and we cream those together. And so today, our fat is going to be some almonds, and our sugar is going to be dates. And then what we always add to that is the egg and the vanilla. An egg substitute could be flax with water or chia with water, because eggs have a high fat content in the yolk, right? So when we're doing an egg replacement, we want the moisture that the egg would provide, we want the binding that it would provide, and we want the fat. So we replace with something that's got some liquid, some binding power, and some fat. We're using the food processor. I've got the S blade on there. It's an S blade because it literally looks like an S.
Like an S. Okay.
Literally like just an S. So we're gonna do double the amount of sugar, which is the dates, as we are the fat. So we're gonna start with the almonds.
So how will you know what double looks like if you don't measure it?
You just guess.
Okay.
There's no black bean brownie police that are gonna come and tell us that we forgot to measure something.
You're right.
So, and what's great about vegan gluten-free cooking is that we can sample it, whereas if you were cooking a regular cake using a wheat flour, you can't sample that. It's not safe to eat raw flour.
Right.
I don't know that a lot of people know that, or if it was just that I didn't know that. I always thought that when they said don't wet the batter, it was because of the egg in there, but it's actually the flour that's not supposed
I knew that, but I don't know why.
So we are going to make a almond butter, and there's no butter in almond butter. It's pureed until it's nice and silky smooth. So this is actually going to take a really long time, like 10 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. And if you've watched my other videos on using the food processor, you know that we're going to cover this with a tea cloth. Two reasons for that. That is to dampen the sound. If you don't want to use that, you could put your protection on. And then the second reason for the tea towel, ingredients just spray all over. Use a tea towel. Okay. Another nice thing about using the tea towel is there's going to be residue around the edge, and then when I take this off and I put it on the counter, it's going to get on the counter. So instead, you're going to take the cloth, lay it on the counter, and then lay your utensils on the cloth. Okay. How long was that? Like 30 seconds? And so I've made an almond flour. But if I keep going, then we'll turn it into an almond butter. While I've got the lid off, I'm going to go ahead and add the tahini. So I rinsed my spoon with water, and it makes it a little easier for the tahini to glide off of the spoon. How much am I putting in there?
Yes, how much?
I don't know. It's just like a big glob. It's a very scientific term. It's a glob, and then we'll test it. So it's been whirling for just about a minute, 2 minutes. It's not creamy enough. We want it super creamy because the brownies need to be luxurious, but I do want to scrape down the sides of the bowl.
Ooh, this is very smooth. Yeah.
And feel the outside of that.
Oh, nice and warm.
Yeah,
So it was a good 10 minutes then, eh?
Yeah. Now, if you didn't want to do the almond butter in a food processor, you could just buy almond butter in a jar. You have to add the sugar in there, the sweetener, which is dates. And so you just take that out. There's also usually
sometimes
the
there's
stem.
a little cap.
Rip them in half and then put them in a container and cover them with water. I am going to use a slotted spoon to take them out and put them in there. And I'm going to reserve the water, and that would make a really nice addition to a cup of tea. And if our brownies are seeming a little thick, then we are going to use a little bit of the date water.
The technique is if I forget to soak the dates, I put them on the stove in a little pot with a little bit of water and a lid, and then maybe 5 minutes later, they're softened.
Nice. We're listening for it to sound homogenized. We're also listening to make sure that there isn't a clunk sound, because that will mean that we missed one of those caps or one of the pits.
Yeah.
And if that happens, it's not a big deal. Just take the acid out and take the pit off of it. Okay. So we're gonna double the amount of beans as there is
Or
the
the whole
sugar.
thing.
So the butter would be a quarter of the amount of the beans.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all just approximate. So we are going to add the vanilla now. Just a little bit. You know why? Just a little bit? Because I'm super cheap and this is super expensive.
Yeah, half a teaspoon or something like that.
Do you use actual vanilla? Do you use vanilla paste, or do you use artificial vanilla?
I have extract from Mexico,
Okay.
so I'm not sure if it's artificial or.
I think that's as real as it
Yeah,
gets.
I think so. I think so.
Okay, so there's our
Beans.
beans. When I cooked them, I made sure that they were super, super soft. Are you curious what this tastes like?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I think is fascinating about food is that the texture and the temperature changes the taste of food, right? It doesn't even need the cocoa powder. It's so good already. Okay, I'm just gonna add
Powder.
Now I'm not using the measuring cup because I want to measure it. I'm using the measuring cup because it works as a really good scoop. That looks exactly like a brownie batter, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You did the eye roll. It was so good. Okay, so you can throw some chocolate chips in there, and I'll throw some walnuts in there.
And these are the no sugar added chocolate chips.
Falling into the batter.
And you soaked them overnight then?
And dehydrated them. So let's go ahead and add the instant coffee and see if it improves the flavor.
Okay, and just a bit of powder then?
Yeah.
No liquid?
No,
because you don't want to change the texture.
Now you have me questioning.
No, it would change the texture.
Oh, it'd make it more
It
liquidy.
would make it more liquidy, right? Well, now, guess what? I have to try it again.
It's so good. They definitely add the coffee. Imagine this with a raspberry.
Chocolate and raspberries go so well together.
You know what would be a nice touch? Is if we take those walnuts and we put a full or a half walnut
On each one?
as a little decorative thing. We could melt some chocolate and put that on top as an icing.
There we go.
If I'm being honest, I think I liked it better without the cocoa added to it. But I prefer the taste of vanilla over chocolate.
Bake in a 350 degree Fahrenheit oven until an internal thermometer reads 195 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope that you learned something, and please comment below and tell me if you are going to try black bean brownies.